You ever watch one moment fold an entire season like a bad hand of cards? Daniel Jones collapses to the turf, slams his helmet in the dirt, and suddenly the whole NFL board shifts. That image, fury, disbelief, the reality of a career and a franchise flash in a second, is the spine of this week's winners and losers. Strap in. Week 14 delivered heartbreak, heroics, and a reminder that December in the NFL is where narratives die or get reborn. Daniel Jones goes down, and the Colts fairy tale gets a sick twist. He wasn't just playing, he was reinventing himself in Indianapolis, turning a bust tag into legitimate Pro Bowl conversation. Then a non-contact Achilles. The sight of him sitting alone and pounding his helmet, brutal. This isn't just an injury, it's an economic and strategic earthquake. The Colts traded future draft capital and leaned on Jones to be the long-term answer. Now they face the rest of the season with a rookie backup, and Jones's free agent leverage evaporates overnight. Teams that once circled Indianapolis as quiet, smart buyers suddenly get a juicy extra pick. The AFC South flips from Colts maybe to Jaguars Texans, and the ripple effects, trades, tags, draft boards, might be the longest-lasting fallout of any Week 14 drama. If Jones' injury is the saddest picture, the Chiefs' collapse feels like the most shocking headline. Kansas City, the team you assumed would win when most teams lose, got manhandled by Houston. 2 failed fourth-down gambles in their own territory. Mahomes hit with 3 interceptions and a playoff streak suddenly teetering on the edge. A 6-7 Chiefs with that cap structure and Mahomes under center, it reads like the start of a very expensive, very public offseason inventory check. The lesson: dynasty fatigue is real, and even the best need margin for error, which Kansas City no longer has. Meanwhile, some teams answered the month's pressure test in the exact opposite way. The Packers took a big step toward the NFC North, completing the week with a win that felt necessary, not pretty. Jordan Love is playing the kind of efficient football that keeps expectations alive. The Rams kept humming. Puka Nacua put on a masterclass that screams go-to guy whenever the playoffs arrive. Seattle looked like the cleanest machine in the NFC West, a team who can quietly take care of business and scare opponents into thinking twice. Then there are the performances that swing single games and maybe seasons. Christian Benford's pick six against Joe Burrow, that was a closer than it looked. One play flipped momentum in 4.5 minutes, turning the Bengals-Bills game into a Bills win. It's the sort of defensive explosion that hides a unit's cracks and instantly makes a team feel playoff ready. Same theme with Jahmyr Gibbs. 3 touchdowns and a historical milestone tie to Barry Sanders. Detroit's backfield suddenly looks like a generational asset, and the Cowboys' playoff math took a punch. For Dallas, one ragged night in Detroit didn't just cost a game. It plunged their postseason probability into the single digits. On the other side of the ledger, the Bengals' late-game implosion was textbook December heartbreak. Joe Burrow carved Buffalo up all day, then 2 interceptions late turned a potential confidence-boosting win into a devastating loss. You can argue the throws, the reads, the weather, but turnovers in the final window are season killers. Cincinnati's offense still flashes elite, but in December, you aren't graded on talent alone. You're graded on decision-making in the smallest windows. 2 picks, and suddenly the scoreboard tells a new story. In Pittsburgh, for a moment, it felt like the noise might drown the team out entirely. Booing crowds, Roethlisberger's "maybe it's clean house time" echoing around the rumor mill, and then Aaron Rodgers gives a vintage Wounded Warrior performance, and the Steelers hand Baltimore a loss that lifts them into the division lead. That win doesn't solve Tomlin's long-term questions, but it buys precious air. Rodgers throwing and leading while playing through pain? That's locker room currency. One win doesn't erase the season's pattern, but it quiets a chorus of doubt, and in this league, peace for even a week helps results breathe. Back in Cleveland, Shedeur Sanders put together the best game of his young career. 364 yards, 3 TDs, and 1 rushing score. But the Browns still lost because football is a team sport written in micro mistakes. The muffed 2-point snap on the final attempt will be replayed on Browns message boards for months. Sanders' performance gives fans something to chew on, rare rookie flashes mixed with rookie miscues. The takeaway: the kid's talent is real. The team's construction and coaching decisions will determine if that talent becomes sustainable. Washington's afternoon was ugly in a different way. Jaden Daniels, back from an elbow injury, goes out again, and Zach Ertz is carted off after a gruesome knee hit that's feared to be an ACL tear. That's old veteran pain. A locker room losing its leader, and then a stalwart drag off the field in tears. The Commanders' season, already collapsing, becomes triage. Marcus Mariota will step in with a paper-thin roster and few options. Injuries don't just cost you games, they change who you are. And right now, Washington feels like a franchise forced into short-term survival mode. There were also the little narratives that feel huge in December. Fred Warner's broken ankle and his unclear timeline for a playoff return. J.J. McCarthy finally looking comfortable in Minnesota and delivering a 31-0 shutout. And Aaron Rodgers' grown man touchdown and eye of the storm leadership in Pittsburgh. Every one of these threads will reappear at the NFL meetings, at trade time, in mock drafts, and in long conversations over coffee in January. Week 14 did what December does. It made decisions urgent. So where does that leave us? The NFL's December crucible is doing what it always does. It separates the teams built to endure from the ones built for highlight reels. The Colts lost their heart. The Chiefs lost a little of their invincibility. The Steelers bought a little breathing room. And a handful of young quarterbacks flashed while veteran stories curled into uncertain chapters. The final weeks will reward discipline. Protect the QB, cut down on reckless fourth down gambles in your own territory, and don't give the opponent free momentum. If you're a fan, here's the thing to remember. Seasons don't pivot on destiny. They pivot on tiny plays, snapped knees, ill-timed gambles, and a single instant where a helmet meets turf in fury. That's the cruel beauty of NFL December. It's where careers are tested, legacies get bumped, and every non-penalty feels like a referendum. Now tell me, which Week 14 moment do you think changes a franchise the most? Daniel Jones' injury, the Chiefs' collapse, Jahmyr Gibbs tying Barry Sanders? Drop your pick and why. I'll be watching the replies like a GM at deadline day. He plants his foot, reaches for the throw, and the season, in one ugly, private instant, bends into something none of us wanted to watch. Daniel Jones slams his helmet on the turf, not because he lost a game, but because he felt the life of a year, maybe more, get ripped from it. The Colts, who started 7-1 and felt like a team turning a corner, watched their beacon go down. Jones suffered a non-contact right Achilles injury that will end his year and likely require surgery. That single image, a veteran who'd been playing through pain, now visibly devastated, rewrites more than a box score. Reuters. The immediate fallout is ugly and obvious. Indianapolis fell 36-19 to Jacksonville, and the fragility of the moment was loud. Jones had been carrying the team's identity, completing nearly 68% of his passes, averaging over 250 yards a game, and turning the Colts into real contenders. Now, Indianapolis is 8-5. The AFC South crown slides toward the Jaguars, and the quarterback market, the financial and roster architecture the Colts built around Jones, suddenly looks unsteady. This isn't only a medical note. It's a seismic shift in personnel planning, draft value, and the math of a playoff chase that already gets mean in December. Reuters. But football is cruelly communal. One team's heartbreak becomes a dozen other teams' chess pieces. The Colts' once assumed security at quarterback was the reason they felt free to trade draft capital earlier this year. Now those picks, the ones that changed hands, gain new leverage. Rival front offices will be recalculating tonight. Which wild card slot opens up if Indianapolis slides? Which team's season gets brighter because Jones can't finish his redemption arc in Indy? That's how single plays metastasize into whole season reroutes. ESPN.com. Ian Ovaneshvai. And yet the week produced winners too. The kind of snapshots fans will put on reels and call proof. Green Bay gripped the NFC North with a late interception. Jordan Love connected for 3 touchdowns. And Keisean Nixon had the play that sealed a 28-21 win over the Bears. It wasn't pretty, but it was decisive. The Packers are breathing a little easier in a division race that still refuses to be predictable. When your defense gives you one crystal clear stop in the final 30 seconds, you don't care how pretty the first 3 quarters were. You care that the W is in the phone. Reuters, meanwhile, the Rams got a reminder of just how dangerous Puka Nacua is.